Alright, so the first example we'll try. So dinner at Red Lobster was $65.13. So that's the subtotal. That's the amount without any tax, tip, or anything. Alright, so you leave a 22% tip. How much is the tip? And the next question is, what is the total that you paid with the tip? Alright, so again, total tells me that we have to add the amount of the tip to the subtotal. So let's set our proportion up. Okay. So I'm going to put an X up here because that's the amount of tip that we're calculating. I'll put $65.13 down here because that's the subtotal. We know percents always go over 100. 22 is the amount of the percent over 100. Alright, so now we'll cross multiply. So that's going to give me 100x. That'll be equal to, let's see what 6513 times 22 was. So 6513 times 22. So again, we solve proportions by cross multiplying. That gives me 1432.86. Okay, so now we have a one-step equation to solve. I get rid of the multiplication here, 100 times x, by dividing, because remember the goal is to get x by itself. So we'll divide both sides by 100. So that's going to give me x is equal to, dividing by hundreds, the same thing as swooping twice to the left. So $14.33. We'll check that here. Yeah, so 14.3286. And rounding is really important with this unit because we're looking at money. So you want to round to the hundredths place. The 8 here would bump that 2 up to a 3. Alright, but we're not through yet. So we've calculated the amount of the tip, but the next question said, what is the total that you paid with the tip? So what we want to do now is add together the subtotal, the 6513. We're going to add to that the $14.33. Because remember, tax and tip make the amount increase. So we're going to do 6513 plus 1433. 3 plus 3 here gives you 6. 3 plus 1 is 4. 9, so we get $79.46. So that would be your final answer for this problem. So again, the steps that we went through, we set the proportion up. We were solving for the amount of the tip. How much is the tip? So that goes on top. The subtotal was 6513. 22%, 22 over 100. Then we just solved the proportion. Let's try another example. Alright, so there's a $75 pair of UGG boots with 5% sales tax. So we'll highlight key information. $75 pair of boots, 5% tax. What's the amount of tax? Total price paid. Alright, so the subtotal would be 75. So that goes in the of part of the proportion. 5%, so 5 goes over 100. So we're calculating the amount of the tax. So the x goes on top. I've seen students in the past a lot of times think that 100 always is going to go with x. Understand that's not necessarily true. It just depends on what piece that you're solving for. It's like if you were solving for the amount of the subtotal, for instance, your x would be down here. But this example does work out. So we have 100 times x, because we cross multiply, is equal to 75 times 5, which gives you 375. Okay, so we have 100 times x equals 375. We get rid of multiplication with division. So divide both sides by 100. It's the same thing as swooping the decimal twice to the left. So therefore, x is equal to $3.75. So see $3.75. So that's the amount of the tax. But then the next part of the question says, what is the total price that's paid? So what we want to do now is take the subtotal, the 75, and we're going to add to that, because tax makes the price increase, $3.75. So when you add those together, 75 plus 3 gives you 78. So $78.75. Alright, so third example, we have a $55 set of headphones that are 15% off. What is the amount of the discount? What's the total amount that you pay? Alright, so $55 set of headphones, 15% off. The first question is the amount of discount. The next would be, what's the amount that you pay? What's the sales price that you would pay? Alright, so we're solving for the amount of the discounts that goes on top. That's the part. The whole would be the subtotal, the 55. 15%. Percents always go over 100. So now we cross multiply. So that gives me 100x is equal to 55 times 15, which is 825. Alright, so now we have a one-step equation. 100 times x equals 825. Divide both sides by 100. Same thing as swooping twice to the left. We'll get x is equal to $8.25. Okay, but we're not through, because now we have to determine the sales price, the amount that we would pay. So what we want to do is take the 55 and subtract $8.25. Because remember, discount, decrease, both start with the letter D. Okay, so 55 minus $8.25 gives us $46.75. So now if this were your test, you would definitely want to show all the work. You would get 1 point for having your proportion set up right, another point for showing the work with the equation, 1 point for correct answer for the amount of discount. Then the final point would be right here when you determine the sales price. Alright, we'll try one more example. Alright, so a board game that normally sells for $34.95, so that would be your subtotal, is on sale for a $6.25 discount. What percent off did you get when you purchased the game? So I chose this problem because you would set it up differently. This time we're solving for what percent, so it'd be x over 100. The amount of the discount is $6.25. The subtotal would be $34.95. So I told you a little while ago not to be in the habit of always putting 100 in x. Here's an example of when you would not do that. Alright, so we cross multiply $34.95 with x. That gives me 34.95x. That'll be equal to $6.25 times 100. And that would be the same thing as swooping twice right. So that's 625. Alright, so we're going to divide both sides by 100. Or I'm sorry, see, I just did it myself. Divide both sides by 34.95. And we'll round to 2 decimal places. So the amount of the discount, the percentage, would be 17.88. Percent. Or if they ask you to round it to the nearest percent, the 8 would bump that 7 up to give you 18%. Alright, so that's the type of problems that you're going to see in tonight's homework assignment. Go ahead and take the Socrative and see how you do on that.